just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Coach Dick Davies, what's a good word?
Coach Josh. Internal, external from our last recording here has been with me this week, but maybe some resistance today to going back to that spot. But that's okay. What's on my mind right now? Back to the balance, I think. Back to the dynamic equilibrium. Back to what's the most important thing. Honoring all the parts. I think oftentimes the process. I think this showed up with clients today a little bit. At least one client, where sometimes it's just everything's okay. Nothing needs to be said. Where I'm with a client where we spent a lot of time at the end of last year, start of this year, setting the plan, getting clear. Now we're in Q1, we're deep into Q1, he's executing on his plan. And he's just doing it. And oftentimes we work with clients, there's so much that's happening that keeps them off, that's pulling them away, that there's always so much to do just to bring them back every time. Get clear, we're really clear, it's a really important thing. When you get it rolling, you create a lot of clarity when it's just like, it's fine. Like I don't know if we need to do anything right now. And then it's tempting to go, okay, well, let's start planning again for the next part. But you're where you're supposed to be in terms of execution. Maybe that's how I feel a little bit today, which is counter to where I generally am thinking through the day, or have been thinking through the day of like, okay, there's plenty of stuff to do, get out there, but I suppose where I am now, just it's always reflective the time of day we record as well, where it's the end of the day. I've done a couple of prospect calls today, a whole bunch of client calls, team call, different hats. I suppose right now it's like this, perhaps a bit of peace. What jumps out for you from all that stuff, Coach? That's 2 minutes 20 of just stuff.
Yeah, and perfectly fine with getting back to dynamic equilibrium. I think we did 2 episodes in a row maybe of that internal external, and I think there's some point in the future where we will return from that or to that, because I think we left off at some pivotal junctures there, but we're also monitoring as we go here, right? So that'll be an easy conversation to go back to as I practice leaning more into the internal and seeing how it results in the external. To your point today, what I think about is, I used to work at Luigi's restaurant, my first job, I think while I was in college. And I had the fry grill where we would,
Don't tell me they're a pizza place.
What's that?
Don't tell me it's a pizza place.
It was pizza, Italian, subs, like the whole works, pasta.
Right.
Anyways, the grill or some of the equipment sometimes would go unscrubbed at the end of the night. And so if it went like a full week without, just the corners of it, it was nearly impossible to get out. It was a pain in the ass. And when you're trying to break down equipment at the end of the night and clean, all you want to do is get out of there. And it was just a pain in the ass to scrub this grill. So what we ended up doing is whatever it took to get it down to as clean as possible. And then we cleaned it every night. And it was a light scrubbing as was all it required. So I think about that with clients who are in that place. All it takes is that a bit of, it's almost the same as like preventative maintenance on like an HVAC unit or something like that. Like it's good, but we also need to prevent things from happening as we go. And then I think about when you're creating a strategy and a business plan and getting ready to execute, like what does it look like when you're successful? because just identifying that, once you're there, then you can live in that space. Like we want to get to a space usually, and it's always moving, and there's always more after. But if we self-sabotage, that's where self-sabotage comes in. Like what could go wrong? And you start to look for problems and then you attract them. So I don't know. I threw a lot of analogies out there, but that's the last one in particular I think about. Like when we're in that space, let's just appreciate that space because we know it's also a pendulum. Something else is probably going to come around, and we just want to stick in that resourceful state to handle anything that might come our way. And if nothing comes our way that we didn't plan for, then we execute the plan and we appreciate the space that we're in.
Yeah, it's okay that everything's okay. I had a coach of mine tell me that once in my Tony Robbins days. It's like he saw me searching for something to work on. I was like, it's okay when things are okay. I love the Luigi story. That's awesome. You know, that's definitely how it was today because it's that daily. So here's the odd that daily light scrubbing. So maybe 5 times a week rather than once a week. You could do the math on that, right? How much time does it take to scrub it each day versus how long would it take to do the one big scrubbing?
Yeah.
What would you say?
It was probably 30 seconds if it was daily, but then it was like 15 minutes if it was once a week.
Oh. So
Yeah.
it was net less overall.
Oh yeah.
I wonder as well, even still, if it was like 5 minutes a day versus 15 minutes in one shot, it still feel less, even though overall there's more work.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, because it's like adherence is the important part, right? It's just like how big would it feel at the end of the week to go, oh man, Friday I got to do this thing, Friday of all days, 15 minutes. Like how much impact negatively would it have on the rest of your performance in the day? But yeah, but 30 seconds times 5 times 7. Yeah, it's different. Like it's like it doesn't exist anymore, right? It's just so. Actually, reminds me of what we were talking about in our last recording a little bit when I started talking about having everything figured out for myself and then bringing other people in my life, right? Like going, oh, I figured it all out now, and then you change that attraction, and then like it's the next challenge. I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, and it's that type of thing. Like obviously, I didn't have everything figured out, but what I meant really was I could trust myself to make my life drama free. I would have had everything so lean in my own existence that everything I did was really quick. So here's a really obvious example, right? It's if you're going to run out to go grab something from a grocery store, if it's just you, you know exactly where your car keys are because you left them there before and no one's going to touch them because it's just you. You get in your car and everything's exactly as you left it because it's just you. And you get in, you put your seatbelt on, like you're going before basically you've turned the engine on, right? It's so quick, like bang, you're off. You know exactly where the grocery store is. You park in a place that's most convenient to you, the closest. You're out of the car without even thinking about it. Close the door behind you before you're in the store. Before you know it, you're picking up what you need to pick up. You're at the line up. You're perhaps listening to a podcast while you're doing it. Like you're in your place where everything's like smooth. You got exactly what you want. In fact, you spend a little time just pondering even a little bit because it's like relaxing. Get whatever you want, you get straight back in the car, it's all smooth, and then it comes back and like everything's where you left it when you got back and exactly the same. You know, and you eat your bunch of chicken that you just bought or whatever it is. That is just like it's a very easy nothing process that probably feels good, net energy up, even if it's something you didn't want to do. That when you layer in like kids, you just take kids today, be like, okay, cool. Get your shoes on, get your shoes on, get your shoes on, get your shoes on, get your shoes on. Please get your damn shoes on. Finally, once the shoes are on, it's like, oh, then I gotta go to the bathroom. All right, go to the bathroom. And then it's like, you got in, I need to take a snack. Okay, I want to take a drink. Like, get your coat on. And then you got to get to the car. And once you get in the car, it's like, can you please get in the car? Please just get in the car. No, I want to do it myself. Okay. So can you get in the car, please? Okay. No, okay. Do you need help? Yes, I need help. Okay. And then you got to put the seatbelt on. You got to make sure the seatbelt's in. All right. And then you got to start going. And then in the way, it's like, I want to listen to this. I want to listen to that. And you get the joke. The point is it's a completely different experience. And it goes from being something that you're completely in control of to not. Right. And so that's really what I was getting at in terms of that type of, I figured it all out for myself. Because if I go back to early parts of my life, like that, even that first part would have been more challenging because, oh, where do I go? Where do I park? Like, what do I want here? And all that stuff I'd figured out for myself, as it were. Does that resonate? You know what I mean?
Big time. What I'm thinking of is a a client that we coach a whole group of people, and what has been an interesting dynamic there is the people who are good tend to carry the other ones who are maybe struggling or going through a difficult time. So that's what's resonating for me because I've seen it flip. Then all of a sudden the people who were like needing the assistance are all of a sudden the leaders and out in front of the pack. And guess who's needs a little help is the people who were leaders before. So I think it cycles in and out with larger groups. And I like what you're saying about if you're good, it's incumbent upon you to look around, see who's not good, and like share some of those things. That's what we're doing with our podcast, right? Like we understand a lot of these business principles. We want to share them with people so that they can grab something from it too. And I think that giving is the most rewarding. The best part of being good is being able then to fill up others' cups and help them fill their own cup up.
And to notice that when it is in a space that's worked, you say keep in that space and don't just go, I don't need something anymore, because then, as you say, you will start looking for the things that you don't want, and then you'll find them, because what you focus on is what you get. And that's just such an important thing. Which part of this do you want to dig into, Coach? What's coming up for you the most here?
I think of the biggest thing I can think of is like purpose. Your purpose, right? Purpose of life. Why are we here? And I've heard this before. Maybe it's like an Alan Watts podcast or video. He said something like, thank God that's not defined, or else once we get it, then we're done. So when we get to that place, there's always something more, something greater to achieve in that place. And it's scary to define it and then to get there and be like, oh, this is what it is. Like, I'm here now. Now what? Now what happens? So I think to answer your question, I just think about that for myself, because so many people, including myself, like want to know, I want the answer to that question. Like, why am I here? What's the purpose? I want to make sure that what I'm doing is meaningful. I think the biggest indicator of that is when I have that space and time, and when I am good, how do I use it? Like, do I rubber band back down to where I was, or do I make that the new normal and attempt to bring other people up around me?
I had a client tell me a story about someone he knew this morning that said his friend that he knew grew up in a bad place in California and bad family environment and trouble with addiction and things, and just decided that at one point he was going to get on his motorbike and drive to Northern California, and it's what he did, and create a whole life for himself, and did really well in a business, and then married someone, and they were happy for a while. They had 3 children, something like that, but then the reflection was that this person that he married was just basically what he left behind in another place. So although he'd seemingly won on the outside, the external, we're back to that again.
He brought the internal with him.
He brought that back.
Yeah.
The representation of that. But yeah, the purpose is so important, right? Because it's not just one thing for a start. And if you do, the scary thing is, not really defining what it is. To know what it is when you got it anyway, you won't know. But then even scarier than that is to get really clear about it, go and think about that's just the only thing. It's the purpose for right now, right? It's creating the person you want to be for right now. And there's no end point. That's why people that aren't thinking about it properly just go, I want to get loads of money, or I want to get loads of something. And then they get it, and then they go, now what, right? Because there's no end point. That's such a classic cliche, right?
Yeah. That's the biggest aha moment for me right there. That purpose changes. Because if we make purpose into an actionable thing that we can do, then of course there will be an ending to that, or there will be an achievement. Like I got there, I did it. I think of Tony Robbins. He's got a goal right now. I'm sure I'll butcher it, but it's like feeding, I don't know, 1 million people or something like that.
Billion.
1 billion. Yeah. So he'll eventually get there, right? He'll get that goal.
Yeah.
Which behooves him to make a different goal, bigger, stronger, better, whatever that is after that. So it's coming up with things that are so big that it's going to take a long time to do, but also like recognizing you'll get there eventually, and then there's going to be another goal, another purpose behind that. It can change. Yeah. It could be more than one thing.
The context, the contrast, the scale, of what do you need right now, who are you right now, and then what are you doing, like how do you make it big enough to you realizing that it's going to juice you up to get it, because if you if you're successful enough and whatever that means for you, then going to set another similar goal, you'll likely not get it because you won't need to recruit as much of yourself to get there.
Mm.
So you won't put much in it, and then that's how you can dissipate, right? That's how you can self sabotage, right? Because it won't be meaningful enough to you to get enough leverage.
Mm.
That Tony Robbins example is good because he talked about knowing he can't do that himself. He has to bring other people in. He has to create
Mm.
leverage through others and deeper relationships. And he has to have people enroll into his vision of doing that in order to get there. And so therefore, like it's a big enough challenge for him to get the most out of himself as well.
Yeah.
So that's an art of knowing like what you need at the moment. Where is that leverage inside you? So purpose changes, and so does leverage. What you got yourself to do something 5 years ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 hours ago is not the same thing as what you might need in the coming fives, whatever those fives are. Could be, but it might not be either.
Right. But and not only is that okay, but that's normal, or that's ideal, maybe even. Like we're meant to accomplish things and then to move on to accomplish more things after that.
Right. Yeah. It's like all in on this right now, and then the next thing is completely something different. Could be, or it could be something that's very similar. You know, just like you haven't. There's a nuance about it which is juicing you up.
Yeah. Why I love this conversation today is because I think we work so hard to get rid of, to master, to shed the things that we feel are weights in our lives. And this is a good reminder to think about, well, once those are all gone, how would we even spend it anyways? Are we okay? Would we be okay if we got to that point and all of a sudden we're sitting here and we have everything we want?
All right. So here's my crutch that I go to on this oftentimes. So I want your thoughts on this and some coaching on this. So I often think that I just want the space to figure out what the next thing is. So my goal right now is to get the next thing, to buy myself space to figure out what's the next big thing. And so here's my logic is that it takes a long time to really refresh and understand what's most important and what's the next path to go down. Where do I want to explore? And I think there's some scenarios of where you are right now. And maybe I'm just more in the execution of this and where you're more in the ponderment of this. Because you do need that space to be able to, and you can't just be, there's an hour in there. So this is back to that end of the year. It talks about, the 3 gears of energy, putting
Mm-hmm.
that time in where you've got the execution energy for the gear one, where you're driving. And then there's gear number two, which is the rest, which is pulling over to the side of the road and sleeping because you're tired. And then oftentimes we do that and we wake up and we just go back into drive and go back into the execution energy. Every now and again, you need the third, which is the reflection energy, which allows you to go deeper, because 20 minutes of just sitting and resting will lead to certain outcomes, but 2 days of sitting and resting will lead to something completely different. You can't force those things in. You can get more practiced.
Yeah. I read something in a book the other day. It was talking about restfulness and laziness. How do we know the difference? It's like, well, if you go to take a nap and you know what you're going to do when you wake up, that's restfulness. If you go to take a nap and you have no idea what you're going to do when you wake up, that's laziness. So like you're replenishing for a purpose versus just like you're tired, so you just want to break. That's what I think about when you shared some of those gears there.
Yeah, right. Because then, like, if I'm tired, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get up. If I want to take a nap and I don't know what I'm going to do when I get up, yeah, I don't know if I'll take a nap. I've got no reason to. If that makes sense. I've got no reason to replenish.
Ah,
You know,
yeah.
that's what kind of drums up for me. Like I'd feel like, yeah,
It's
tired.
definitely looking at it through a leverage lens of perspective there. Like I think the average person would just sleep if they feel tired and there's nothing to do. They would go to sleep.
Yeah, right. If there really is nothing to do and you're tired, it's like, but that's wonderful. Presuming you've got a place you can sleep that's quiet, or if like if there's nothing to, well, I guess then you'd have something to do. But if it was like just a room and a bed and you're tired, like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I do want to go back to what your main purpose of bringing that up, because I think I love this topic too. Um, I am in that space right now, and I think the challenge I'm having right now is what I want. Um, Here, I'll come at it from this lens. I don't know what it is yet because I haven't received the vision for it. And I'm very intentional about the words I'm using there. Not that I haven't created it, because I think it's already created in the future. I just need to align myself with what that is right now, and I don't know what it is. So, to your point, if you're not thinking about it, or if you're not in that space, that creative space, that reflection time where you can, channel these things and understand what the future holds for you, then it's like the grill, right? You got to scrub it a little bit harder. It's more time to get it to come through. So, and we can wrap this back to your client example as well. If he doesn't know, you mentioned like, well, do we jump right back into strategy? I don't know. It's up to him and you guys, right? How you approach that. But and if he's good, what's the next thing he's being called to? And if that's the first time he's thought about it in months, he probably doesn't have that answer. So to me, it defines the importance of that ongoing maintenance. Even if what I have, like, I wonder what this version is with Tony Robbins, a billion people. Do you know how many he's fed at this point and how close he is?
He said it would take him 10 years. That's probably a good way in, I'd say, like
Okay.
over
So just
halfway.
say he's 50% of the way there. Do you think he's thought yet of once he accomplishes that, what his next one will be?
I bet he has. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's my point with,
yeah.
I think once we define it, we get away from that creative space because we know what we're going to do. We show up and we do it and we execute, and there's no need for it. What is going to happen is if he doesn't think about it, he might need another year or 6 months or 2 years to think about what his next big vision is. Whereas if he's thinking about it now, not only will he know what it is when this current challenge ends, he's probably going to fold what he's doing now into the next thing. And talk about leverage. There's your leverage right there. So maybe this is my enlightenment for our conversation today, is that I've
Okay.
uh, victim is not a great word, but I'm a victim of my own failure to think about the next big thing, because I thought I had it a couple of years ago, and maybe I did. And as I'm going through it here, now it's time to adjust, to pivot, and I'm starting from like not even zero, but from like negative to get back to zero so that I can get into plus.
See, that's
Yeah.
that's the danger, right? Because it's easy just to go, "I'm all right now. I'm just gonna see what happens." But the regression's happening in that moment, and that's the scary part. That's the danger part. That's what is in me to give myself like a metaphorical or even a physical like slap around the back of the head, because I know that if I stay in that space too long, I'm going to forget the other place even exists,
Mm.
and that's just a belief as well. But like I often say, that I got into coaching because I was concerned I'd forget the power of personal development,
Mm.
that anything's possible. So if I live in it, and I rig the game that I have to live in it, then just like we rigged the game with this podcast, right? We do this. We
Mm-hmm.
just came off a big team call where we're cranking on not this side of our brain at all, but then we push ourselves to this place. We go to that third gear of reflection because we created a environment for it, and that's the tension. Back to the tension again, right, between the internal and the external.
Yeah.
It's the test.
Question for you. How much do you find yourself when we get to an end of a conversation where, we didn't know where this one was going to end up? We don't know where any of them are going to end up. Where we usually take away a principle or like a good reminder. Do we always fit like our aha moments into a principle, or is it okay sometimes to, well, this is like new, this is different, or is it always like all the same stuff?
The concepts are few and defined, the methods are many and not. Yeah, I believe that there's so many things out there that I have no awareness of, and it also appears to me, maybe this is a huge blind spot for me, that everything that I see fits into somewhere that I can recognize something of from, at least. Like I can put it somewhere. I can always put it somewhere. If we're talking about some sort of specific technical skill or area which I have no knowledge of, I can still fit that into a concept of how to make that work or what I might need to make that work. I guess conceptually it's the same as like running and creating a successful business. You can do it once, you can do it again, and you can do it with anything. But I also, like I said, I really want to reiterate that like that could be a huge blind spot for me, because I don't know what I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff out there that if I listen to this conversation in 10 years' time, I'm going to be like, why is that idiot saying like at the end of his sentences? And he's got no clue what he's talking about.
Yeah, it seems to me to be a skill to be able to take something forward and look at it through the lenses that you see it and apply it to something that you already know. But to your point, it's difficult to know. You know, I think of it like a tool belt. You got 10 different tools. You explore the earth, and like any tool can break through whatever you find anywhere. Then you venture out into space, and then all of a sudden you have a material that none of your tools can get through. You know, maybe we haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe we never will. Maybe we might. But I think it's just a testament to the tools that you've sharpened over the years to be able to have the confidence in whatever unknown happens and be able to look at it through the lens of something you do know and apply it and filter it and categorize it into something that you do know. I think that's a great skill.
And perhaps it's also that there's a fundamental skill which is it's like this is nothing to do with me. So it's a observation and it's more me directing myself around what's there than directing what's there. So therefore, like as you say, the tool applies to anything because the tool is molding itself to what's there, not molding the thing that's there. Could be.
Yeah.
And it could be something else. That's fun as well. Take us home, Coach.
Yeah, I'm trying to tie this in a bow here today. I think for me, the biggest jolt of energy I got today was when we were talking about planning for the future and how important it is to do that, even when we already know or think we know what we're doing, or else you're a victim. There's that word again of falling into that trap and then having to reset and take longer than having to scrub the grill for a longer time than you actually have to, than if you upkeep it on a regular basis. And I think that's a superpower, but it's something I want to practice moving forward here. When we see it so clearly, we still practice it.
That's right. Because it's not the time it takes to scrub the grill again. It's how long does it take for you to get to the moment to scrub the grill? And then how much of that time it's taking up to the moment to scrub the grill that you could have invested in something else that's completely outside of that's not created even yet. So it doesn't even matter how much time it takes to scrub the grill. That 15 minutes, not about that 15 minutes it takes to scrub the grill. It's the 6 months before that you thought about, like, hey, why don't I just do this daily? And that you could have taken that energy and put something that's creative. So the thing for me that stood out the most was your reference to being in the space and waiting for that to receive that vision, so that you have to be open to receive it in order to receive it. So that's also the other side of it. It's like the antenna has to be up to get the signal. And if you're too busy just like having the antenna off the roof and just going, is everything okay with the antenna? You know, it's not on there waiting to receive it. But like sometimes you just go, I'm not ready to put the antenna up right now. I'm busy doing something else, and that's totally fine as well, right? It's like it's not like I got it. I know that there's something up there, and I'm missing out on it right now. But also, I'm cleaning out the garage, right? It's like it's a mess down there. I've got to do that as well.
It's a balance. The pendulum swings, and we continue. We trudge on, and we will trudge on next week. Coach, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.